Hi, my name is Jennifer Needham, and I want to be a homesteader. The only problem I face right now is that I don't have any land. I don't have my own house. I currently live in a 2-bedroom apartment out on the outskirts of Atlanta, and it just seems like it's going to be a while before I get any of those things to have a true homestead, at least to the point that you see on other homesteaders videos where they have all their buildings, all their animals, their garden set up. It seems like, just for me, unfortunately, that's a long time away. But homesteading is still something that is a part of my dream, and it's really heavy on my heart to make it happen. So during quarantine last year, I got laid off from my job temporarily. They brought me back after, but I ended up having about 4 months not knowing what to do with myself and being stuck inside and stir crazy. But I really, really, really wanted to start a garden. But I didn't have any land. And I have an enclosed patio. I don't even have any grass to put anything in or any soil to amend. I have one garden bed back there that I just got lucky and it came with the apartment for some reason. But it gets like no sunlight. The only thing I managed to make grow in there is some mint that was there before when I got here, and some crops that don't require a lot of sun. But it really doesn't do too well. So I really wanted to start growing stuff and to learn. Because even though I don't have land and I don't have grass, I can still try and do my best to learn with the tools that I have. And then hopefully I can take that knowledge and turn it into fruition when I do eventually have my own land to work with. And maybe I'll even know a bit more. So what I ended up doing is I got lucky on Facebook Marketplace, and I bought, like, for $120, like 50 different pots of varying sizes. And I just put soil in all those pots and grew what I could. I also happened to have some spare wood that I'd used to make a catio. It didn't end up working out, but we had a whole bunch of wood left over. So I took that wood and I made my own planter boxes, and I just grew what I could. And I was very surprised with the amount of food that I could grow in just 50 or so pots. I grew peppers, I grew tomatoes, I grew eggplants, I grew cucumbers, I've grown kale. I managed to make it so that I could grow green beans, and I tied them so that they went up to the roof so that they could keep growing, and I would climb an 8-foot ladder just to harvest them. Not going to do it that way again this upcoming summer, though, that's for certain. Anyways, my point being is that I am really, really new to all of this stuff. I don't have a background in it. I didn't grow up on a farm. I've never even held a chicken before, let alone owned one. But these are things I really want. So I'm going to do what I can to learn for now. And I figured, why not make a video about it too? Something I can look back on if someone else is maybe in a similar situation. Maybe we can learn from each other, I'm sure there's plenty of people out there who just happen to live in 2-bedroom apartments that really want to grow food too. So we'll see how it goes. But I suppose for today, we can start with planting some beets, because that's what I have decided to do today. I tried planting beets once before, and they died. I think they got too cold while I was away during Christmas, and by the time I came home, they were dead. I have one seedling left, but it's barely grown anything at all. Before we get to the beets, I suppose I can show y'all around my makeshift garden space. Now, it's pretty messy. because like it's just a whole bunch of pots places. But I decided, why try to, hide that from y'all? Why try to pretend like I'm so perfect at this and I know everything when I don't know what I'm doing at all? I'm still learning, just like plenty of other people out there. So I'm not going to pretend that I do everything right. I'm just going to show you how messy it is, my imperfections, what I'm learning. If I find something that I don't know how to deal with, I'll admit it or look it up and come back to you on it. We'll see how this goes. But so for now, I suppose we'll do a little tour of my garden space. So, this is my apartment space that we're looking at. And as you can see, I have a bit of an enclosed patio with right outside where the parking lot is. As you can see, that's my car actually. And there's nothing but dead grass everywhere for right now. But so I have an area over here that is a bit of an open growing space. And this is that planter bed I was telling you about that has a lot of shade going on in it. As you can see, I have some chard growing right there and some kale. If y'all are wondering what the white stuff is, it's just diatomaceous earth because some bugs were eating it. You can see they need a little bit of attention, some dead leaves, but hopefully to get that cleaned out. Got some kale. I have nothing growing down there because I can't get it to grow down there except the voracious mint plant. I can't keep it out. Anyways, for right now, I have some herbs that are still managing to stay alive at the moment. Some over here too. That basil is very dead, except for that one. This is my pride and joy, my currently hibernating fig tree. I promise it's not dead. It's still just a baby. I have a couple of kumquat plants and lemon seedlings right now. Fennel. Again, most of this stuff is hibernating, like these roses. And then some of it just doesn't have any current space. That's my seeds down there. But so this is one of my largest boxes that I actually built out of the spare wood I had last year. And as you can see, it's probably doing the best out of everything. I actually ended up planting some mustard greens and collard greens in here, though honestly, because I didn't label anything, I really don't know if this is a mustard green or a collard green I'm looking at the moment. And then I have some cabbages that are growing. We also have some Brussels sprouts in the back. Believe it or not, those are both Brussels sprouts, and they were planted at the exact same time. I don't know why one grew and the other didn't. Can't really tell, but there's some kale seedlings in here. I have some broccolis growing. A couple salad greens over there, but really they haven't gotten very big at all. And then let's see, my outside setup kind of looks like this. I'm not going to say it's the fanciest. As you can see, I've taken a couple tubs that I had and filled them up with soil. I have carrots and beets, or that would be the beets, except there's nothing growing in it. Everything else is spinach and other greens, but honestly, I don't have much growing right now because I have my own form of pest. His name is Junior, and although he may appear to be cute, he has been a menace upon me in my garden. He does as all dogs do. He digs, and for some reason decides that my plants are the perfect for even standing in. Sometimes he doesn't dig anything. He just decides he wants to stand in the pot and squish the seedlings. So I've had a really tough time of being able to grow anything to fruition this, well, what was formerly fall and is now winter season. Not just because of Junior, but because, as you can see, I have a whole bunch of trees behind me, and they end up blocking a lot of the sun that we get here. But I'm hoping that now that the winter solstice has passed, I'll be getting more and more sun each day. I'm going to try moving some pots back on my wall. I only moved them out here in order to try and let them have a better chance of growing, because this was the only place I could put them where they got sun. But seeing as how we're getting more and more sun, I'm going to put these guys back up on the wall where Junior can't get to them anymore. As for the bigger ones, they'll stay on the ground, but I plan on doing some information, some videos about what to do with more neighborhood pests. I don't really get squirrels or rabbits or deer coming by. I just have one dog who's determined to dig everything up. That will be for another video though. For today, what we're going to do is plant some beets. And let's go walk over to the beets. So most of the time when you plant beets or any root vegetable, you put the seed and you leave it alone. And most people are of that opinion. And there's even some things like squashes. Some people say cucumbers, watermelon shouldn't be touched. But I grew some watermelons last year, and I was having a tough time getting the seeds to start, so I had them in a very small pot, got those watermelon saplings to grow, and then I transferred them into this pot I'm about to plant in right now. And I even gave some to my cousin. They went a whole car ride and everything. He got 4 of them, and they all grew, and they all produced watermelons. So some of the things I think they tell us on the back of these seed packages, just though it's recommended, doesn't necessarily mean that you can't still produce something doing it a different way. So I'm going to see if these seedlings will survive. I'm pretty certain they will. I mean, I'm about to put them back in the ground and it'll be fine. So let's get to it. So here we have my currently failed beet project. And that's Junior, if y'all can hear him. It seems like I actually got lucky and I have more than just one seedling. That's probably the biggest one. But if you can see, there's a couple ones in the dark back here. So it looks like I have maybe 4 that survived. But I planted these probably 2 months ago, and they haven't gotten any bigger than that. At least this one has some true leaves, and true leaves, if you can see right here, are the leaves that grow after the first 2 leaves. The first 2 leaves are just the saplings leaves, and they help it get energy, but you can see how these leaves look different from the biggest leaves. Those 2 in the middle, those are a plant's true leaves. And what you look for to make sure your plant is going, like this one actually has 4 sets of true leaves. Oh, those little ones are itty bitty. Anyways, so I have 3 beet beds here. 1 large tub and 2 small containers. Now, none of the ones in these containers survived. I guess they just didn't have quite the protection that the high sides of this box had. But anyways, what I'm going to do, since these seedlings really haven't been thriving, though they've just barely surviving, I'm actually going to fix their soil, because I think one of the reasons why my beets haven't really grown, besides of course the cold getting the other ones, is that I think they're a little too far down. And at least in this tub, I don't think the sun really has a good chance. You can see there's a very large shadow, and that shadow changes as the sun moves, and I really just don't think these plants are getting enough sun. So what I'm going to do is actually add a little bit more just basic soil mixture. This one just happens to be Vigoro, reason being it's just rather cheap, and that's the access that I have to dirt at the moment. It's what I have. Now, the thing I've learned about beets is that they really like to have loose soil to grow in. They don't want rocks in their soil or big wood chips, which I've removed my very large wood chips from this pot. And as you can see, there's a difference between this pot and this pot. This pot, I've gone and just used my fingers to really soften the soil up, add some aeration and everything. This pot is pretty compact, this soil, and beets really don't like to grow in that. Like I'm trying to, it's too compact. If I were to plant seedlings in this right now, they wouldn't do too well in the growing phase as the root produces. Because if there's rocks in the way, then that root will get stopped by the rocks or the wood chips or whatever is in the soil, and then they'll just grow deformed or they'll stop growing. So we're going to loosen up this soil, and I'm going to add more soil to this tub before I try planting. Okay, so as you can see, I have put some more soil on top of here. Now, usually I wouldn't fill up a pot this high with soil, but seeing as how I've been fighting with these plants not getting enough sun, I think this is what's needed, at least for these beets, because they really are a root vegetable. They don't focus as much on their leaves. And actually, let me show you. So if y'all can see, it's a little hard to make out because my hand's dirty from fresh soil, but here's one of the seedlings, and I delicately removed him, but you can see that long root. Well, that's what they're supposed to do. They focus on their root growth. So all these seedlings I have, even though they look so tiny on the top, they've all managed to grow just these really, really long tap roots. So I think that'll give them plenty of soil to grow down in, especially since my container has a bottom on it. This will be good. I think they'll be able to get more sun at least. So I have two varieties of beets here. We've got the Crosby's Egyptian and Golden Beets. Now these are, as you can see, both bought from Baker Creek. I just happen to still have these seeds on hand from when I tried planting them unsuccessfully earlier in the year. They have, so far I've ordered a couple different seeds from Baker Creek, and none of them have been iffy or anything. They've all been really great. So we're going to see how these go. I'm going to plant the golden beets in the 2 pots, and then the Crosby's Egyptians in that one, which is what was there to begin with. So beets can get pretty large, and I know this is a small growing area, so I think I'm only going to put 4 in each of these pots, and then I might be able to squeeze 8 in there, but we're going to focus on the seedlings first that have actually made it. Okay, so I think with the method I'm going to do right now, I'm going to plant in a 2 and then a 1 in the middle, and then go back to 2 and keep the pattern like that to give everyone enough space when their leaves do start producing more, because their leaves can get a little big, especially if they get a lot of nitrogen. Let's hope they don't get too big. So I'm just gonna go ahead and, it's super easy. You just have to stick your finger in there. You know, this is really nice, loose soil. We're gonna take our little seedling here and just pop him down in that hole, and then pick him up. Like just as gentle as can be. And then, just slightly smoosh that dirt in around him. Not very hard. He doesn't need it. This dirt is nice and aerated. It's supposed to be fluffy. You just need barely gentle taps. And you see, he looks happy. So I'm gonna go ahead and keep doing that. Need a little bit of a deeper hole here. Give those roots room. Oh wait, I've got to give those roots place to go, because as you can see, they grow straight down. They don't like growing in clumps or anything like that. All right, and then make that dirt kind of pile around him. Bam. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and plant the other two. So I've got these guys planted. They're looking quite happy, and now we're gonna move on to some seeds. Now, if you've never seen a beet seed before, they kind of funky looking. This is what they look like. Little round spiky balls. And now with these, just like most seeds, they really don't require you to dig them down. So don't feel the need like what I did with the seedlings, dig them down, because when a seed gets water and it opens, it only has so much energy stored in it to grow. And if it doesn't have enough energy to make it to the surface, then that seed doesn't end up becoming a plant. So we just barely need to plant them. Like, I'm just barely gonna... You see, that seed is pretty close to the surface. Now, I like to do 2 and then come back and thin. There, you see those 2 little guys? They're just barely even in there. And then you just kind of brush some soil over them, and bam, you planted your seed. You don't need to worry too much about packing it in, just light taps, and you have seeds. So I'm gonna go ahead and all right, barely cover. And okay, those are planted. I'm gonna go ahead and plant the other ones. All right, so that only took like literally a minute. I've got both the Crosby's Egyptian and the golden beets planted. The only thing I'm going to do now is just give them a very light watering, because some of the soil that I added on top was a little bit dry when it came out of its casing. I mean, it's been open to the elements all winter, so that's to be expected. Now I just have a watering can. I don't have a fancy setup. And I like to use the watering can at least for the seeds, because if I were to get my water sprayer out, it's pretty forceful, and it could even displace some of these plants that I've just very carefully added to. Not to mention, it can even help, compact that soil, and that's not what we want for these beets. So we're not going to use that sort of sprayer on them until they get a little bigger, a little stronger. But yeah, so that's why I like to use the watering can. So I've made a couple changes to how I grew the beets from last time to this time, and I'm really hoping that makes a difference. If not, if it totally doesn't work, I'm gonna let you know though. I really hope it works this time. So thanks for coming out here and learning with me, and I hope to see you for the next lesson. Have a good one.